WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are positively getting the Crab Cake Tour back out on the road. I am happy about that. I don't know if my waistline is going to be happy. I tend to eat a lot of French fries when I eat crab cakes. We're going to be taking it to Mama's on the half shell this week. Our great sponsors at Nacho Mama's, and this is going to be down in Canton this week. Then next week we go back over to El Guapo. We've done Crab Cake Tour stops now at State Fair, also at the Beaumont, where Don had me hankering that prime rib last week. But we'll be at El Guapo next Thursday from 2 until 5. And then after that, we're going to be at Costas on the 18th from 2 until 5 doing a little basketball, as well as a little Crab Imperial. And then on the 23rd at Fadley's in Lexington Market. It's all brought to you by our friends at the Maryland Lottery. Don, we wanted to recon here this week, and between war, baseball stoppages, trying to like get into the spring of things and sort of feel some sense of normalcy in this country after now 2 years of being locked down or not locked down or masked up. A lot of directions to go in this week, but I think the war kind of sits on top of everything, right, for everybody.
It does indeed. And just one quick correction, at El Guapo next week, we're there from 1 to 4.
Oh, okay.
1 to 4. And we have some phenomenal guests. We'll tease it a little bit right now. We've got probably the preeminent reporter in the entire state of Maryland, Jane Miller, is going to stop by. We always love it when Jane stops by. The legendary Rob Roblin. So we're going to have some fun at El Guapo next week from 1 to 4. Nestor, we start with the war, and we encourage folks. Did an incredible segment today with Mark Steiner. Mark's been around forever and a student of history. And I think what everyone is troubled by is no one can see a way out of this. And as you and I talked with Mark, when you start with a premise, and I certainly don't quibble with the premise, that you cannot put boots on the ground and you cannot create no-fly zones, that you basically are limited by what kind of support you can provide President Zelensky and the Ukrainian people.
I still go back to this bully shit that really angers me in regard to, I will beat you, I will shoot you, and if anybody else comes in, I'll shoot you too. That like, I'll drop a nuke on you. Okay, well, you might anyway. You know what I mean? Like, if we let you play around and threaten, this is an issue of 53 years of my life of dealing with bullies and what they say they're going to do while they're already violating you. While they're violating you, they're then going to bully you with more violation. That's untenable. We're not in a tenable situation if we're going to allow 40 million people to be raped and pillaged because we're under the threat of a nuclear attack that he could drop a nuke anytime he wants. I mean, like, so could we, I guess, but we're sane, right? He's not sane. So, we keep thinking that we're dealing with a state leader. He's as effed up as Kim Jong-un, probably worse, because he's got more power and more money and more guns and more people and more land and more all of that, right? This isn't about having a sensible negotiation with Vladimir Putin. I mean, he's not an honorable human being. Let's start with that. He's a KGB agent. He's a scumbag.
I don't think criminal.
He's a war criminal as of this week.
Yeah, I don't think anyone of the Western leaders, and many who aren't Western leaders, I don't think anyone finds him a rational actor. That doesn't make it any easier to deal with it. And when you're talking about international geopolitical considerations, the thinking of how I'd react in the schoolyard just doesn't work because of the stakes of nuclear.
Oh, I'm not saying eye for an eye. I'm saying, but if you're going to sit here and on satellite television watch a country get dismembered, and we're going to sit out because he's holding the gun at our head too. He's always holding the gun at our head.
Well, no, I don't think it's we're sitting out. I think it's you're trying to respond in a way.
Well, they shut the banks down, right? So that starves the population there.
Which is huge. Shutting the banks down. There's no doubt
about that.
Getting out of SWIFT, cracking down on the oligarchs, all of that matters. Part of that contributes, when the Soviet Union, when the Berlin Wall came down, I used to only half jokingly say, well, once again, the desire for Levi's and 8-track tapes wins out, because when Western culture begins to creep into the young people in a country, they think very differently than folks who grew up under an oppressive regime and it was all that they knew. And right now, today, the young people in Russia cannot use Apple Pay or Google Pay. They can't buy a new iPhone. They can't get the latest version of Jordan sneakers from Nike. So their world is turned upside down, and there are all kinds of profiles in courage taking front and center every day, correct? And some of those images are the thousands of people across Russia willing to risk going to jail to stand up and say, what are we doing? The Ukraine posed no threat to us. Many of our relatives are Ukrainian, but you're dealing with, I think, when you cut to the chase and you look at all of the analysis, you're dealing with someone, an aging KGB agent who longs for the day of the Soviet Union. And his goal is he believes his legacy will be to put Humpty Dumpty back together again and recreate the Soviet Union. I don't think
because
that
it was so great the first time, huh?
Yeah, I don't think that will happen. I think it doesn't mean that this is going to be a quick exit. I would imagine that everyone in the West is trying to figure out a way to create a scenario where Putin can declare victory and withdraw, because that's the kabuki dance, right? You've got to figure out a way that he saves face and can get the heck out of Dodge. It's by all accounts really frustrating him that they just didn't march in and overtake Ukraine in 48 hours. Because of President Zelensky, that's not going to happen. And the Ukrainian people.
Well, so Ukrainian people making Molotov cocktails and getting guns and saying, we're not going to have it the other way. We're not going to just allow this.
Correct. And as you said in an earlier conversation with Mark Steiner, regardless of his success short term, the Ukrainian people are not going to be running to the store to get photographs of Vladimir Putin to hang in their living rooms. That's just what we found out, is that's not who they are. So this is tragic. It shadows everything. It has political implications. It has really made, I thought it was gratifying, Nestor, at least for a moment, until the crazy women started to shout at the State of the Union. There were moments in the State of the Union when we looked like a normal nation again, where both sides of the aisle stood up and applauded a president, a wartime president, trying to bring our country together. It's a real challenge, because that's not who we've become, right? We always say, when we look
part
at
of that, if you really want to get to it, the Russians have played a huge role in that, and trying to get people who are naive to not believe that these troll farms existed, that they existed throughout 2014, 15, and 16, leading in. I mean, social media has allowed Russia to fight. It has allowed them to poison the minds of American citizens, and the people that have been poisoned with their minds don't even know where it came from. And much of the things we read back in the 80s and 90s about how the war for your mind and mind manipulation, information manipulation, that's a real thing. That's a real thing. And social media has put that in a place where, like, your mother or my father wouldn't understand it. You know what I mean?
I think Nestor, when the history books are written for our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren, the the role of social media and, as you say, the disruptors, the Russian government, the Russian bots, the disinformation, it makes it very, very difficult to have a discussion about.
Well, the vaccine was part of that, right? The vaccine,
sure,
that is a very, very Russian thing. Don't take the vaccine, they'll poison you. You know that.
And the goal, and Putin's goal throughout the Western world, was to have the disruption come from within. And certainly in our country, he has succeeded. The battle
beyond his wildest imagination. I mean, I can't imagine when their government sends a bunch of young people who are bilingual down to basically be spies and wage war on us, putting some of the most ridiculous stuff. The Russian people must be like, they're going to believe this? Really?
Well, boy,
Let's
Nestor,
just put it out there. Put it out there. Don't believe it.
That really strikes a nerve, because all of my educator friends who listen to this show will understand 100% of what I'm about to say. And that is, all of us in our careers taught or engaged with Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were this handful of students who were very challenging to deal with, because they were not, and again, it's a handful. I can see them. I see their pictures. They were anti-intellectual. They did not want to learn anything. Their bluster was that they were smarter than anyone else. I can remember one day, I forget even what the student had done, but the assistant principal, Jay Tanner, and I was the principal at the time, we were in Mr. Tanner's office, and this student was going on and on and on about all this nonsense. He was going to do this and he was going to do that. And I can remember saying, hey, just stop. Just stop. Did I miss a memo? Did a memo come out today that put you in charge of this school with all this nonsense and tell you that you're now in charge, and Mr. Tanner and Mr. Mohler are not? Because if you got the memo, give it to me and we'll go out and play some golf and you run the school. Other than that, sit down, be quiet, and get a grip on yourself. And that's who Lauren Boebert is. That's who Marjorie Taylor Greene is. They are people who,
well, the fact that the people that vote for them think this is leadership in some way,
well,
this is productive in some way.
The scary, and David Brooks, longtime conservative writer with the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, has written about the death of conservatism as he knew it. And he talks about its degeneration into this just angry mob. I mean, Boebert, when confronted a day or two later, not confronted because she was aided and abetted by a Laura Ingraham, on Crazy Fox News, but when asked if she had regrets about screaming out at a president of the United States, she'd do it again. It is and again, my educator friends know what I'm talking about. It's the handful of students who try to disrupt school for the thousands of students who want to do the right thing, who want to get an education. But these people don't fit in. So Laura Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Paul Gosar, they don't fit in. They are misfits. They're on the island of misfit toys. And what they do is they just keep shaking their fist. And the sad part is that there are enough Americans who feel disenfranchised that they embrace that. I rarely tell people to unfriend me on Facebook. I, as you call it, prune the tree. I prune my own tree from time to time. But I did after she screamed at the president. I said, if you want to prove of this, or you even want to give me some false equivalency of this, please just unfriend me, because we have nothing to say to one another if we can't be more civil than this as a nation. And it's really pretty disgusting, Nestor. it's frustrating. So
imagine being in the baseball meetings right now. You
well,
talk about one
let's
side,
talk
now the
about
other
that.
side,
You know,
because I'm going to let you blather because it bothers you. Like I've dedicated my life, my business, my career to sports. The last 5 years, I've done this because of this. I am so happy that I've quit on baseball. I'm so happy that I'm not beholden the way I was 30 years ago in 1994, 95 to feed my family. That we were talking then about peanut vendors and people that made money off the games and the restaurants downtown and the hotel. That's what the conversation was back in 94, 95. I don't even know what the conversation is right now because I'm a little removed from it. Most people I know don't like baseball the way you still do. Like literally if I were to take the 100 percentile of all the people I know who loved baseball at one point, there might be 10% of you, 1 out of 10 of you who I went to games with who still love it. You still hold tickets, you still go. Is this offensive to you?
it's confusing to me. And I thought that Luke Jones on BaltimorePositive.com really had an excellent analysis. Luke did what few reporters do anymore. And he did some research. Call me crazy, but Luke actually went out and did some research. He looked at how attendance declined after every work stoppage, how long it took for it to come back. Without getting angry about it, because I think some of the analysis I've read is that most fans have tuned it out. I'm a little bit there in this sense, in that, as you know, I have no interest in the business side of sports. Sports for me are an escape. I don't care about the business side. I find this.
Yeah, well, when it's run poorly, you get what you get, though. That's why you have to
get what you get. And I do think I read an article this morning and I thought, okay, now that may make some sense. And it was, they talked to a bunch of reporters who had followed this closely. And they said to them, when do you think games may start again? And a bulk of the reporters said, you have to understand, the owners have very little interest, and have for a number of years, in opening the turnstiles in April. They know it's cold, it's ugly. There are rainouts, there are snowouts. They don't make a lot of money in April. So they said, I wouldn't put any money on coming back until May. Others said, I might even say July.
Well, the other part of this is when John Angelos goes down and tickles the people in Vero Beach and in Fort Lauderdale, all these Floridian communities, all these Arizona communities that went all in on these baseball facilities. Goodyear out in Arizona and Surprise, these places I've been out in Arizona to see baseball, all gone. The whole month of March for baseball fans to descend upon Phoenix and what that means to the community and how baseball leveraged all that. They've just sold out, Florida and Arizona.
I feel real. Listen, this is where the small businessman and women piece really does tug at my heartstrings a bit. I feel for those folks in Sarasota who look forward to February and March every year as a critical part of their income. And
Sarasota spent a lot of money signing on for this.
They spent a lot of money. They built a beautiful complex. And it appears, a couple of things are clear, right? That Rob Manfred, and I think our friend John Feinstein would agree with this. We've talked with John about it before. Rob Manfred is at the bottom or near the bottom of effective commissioners. He appears to have very little control of the owners. I'm not sure, if the goal is, here's the interesting part, right, Nestor? If the goal is to break the union, that's not going to happen. So if we're starting on the premise that I want to break the union, Rob, Flash owners, you're not going to break the union. There is a deal here to be had. When I looked, for example, Nestor, at the how far apart they were on the cap, they're not. When you're talking the millions of dollars that they make on broadcast rights and everything, they're not that far apart on the cap. There's no reason that the cap should keep them from getting a deal. When you look at issues regarding service time, there's no reason that issues regarding service time should be a problem here. So, that's, I think, the problem that folks are having is that there don't appear to be issues that should keep them from reaching an agreement. So I guess where I am is, you're right. I still love baseball. I want to be out there having my big boogs and a beer. I love it that my grandsons still love the game and they still love to play the game.
I hate it that I don't love it. You know what I mean? Like I hate what they've done to it so much. So it's like Angelo's just with the franchise is made it's so not fun to go. You don't ever invite me because I'm a pain in the ass because I go.
Yeah,
and say,
no, I
sucks.
don't like to experience baseball with you because you're not you're on the other side. You're not objective about it. In other words,
no, I show up and it's not as good as it used to be by a lot. There's a lot of things they could do to make it better.
But in terms
all they've done is make it worse. They've never really made it better.
But in terms of the Baltimore ownership, that's where you're not objective. In terms of you're not able to go to 10,000 feet and say, wow, they really.
I'm able to go to 100,000 feet and say my press pass was taken away 16 years ago.
Forget.
That's
again,
wrong.
you personalize this thing with your press pass.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
No, I've told you.
Is it wrong?
Before.
Is it wrong?
I told you nobody cares about your press pass.
No. But is it wrong or is it right? Banning the media. Is that right or wrong? That's my personal experience.
I think WNST has access to the Orioles. I think Luke has access.
Come on with that. Now you're going PR on me. We're going to give the white guy a pass, but not the Hispanic guy. Like that's it's just they took Allen's pass.
You're certainly not.
Pass. They're not.
Nestor, I don't like to do this on the air, but if you're going to ask me,
ask Greg Bader why I don't have my pass. They've never given it to me. So if you're asking me whether it's personal, of course it's personal.
No, there's blame on both. I don't like to do this because you don't like it.
What's the blame? What are the rules that I need to live by? What do I need to agree with Vladimir? Peter Angelos in order to ask questions at a locker of a player, which I've done all of my life. What?
I think both sides made mistakes.
It doesn't matter because they're not even playing. So I talk about my press pass.
No.
You're saying it's personal to me. Yeah, it is. And then I
always
look at it and say it's.
You always shut me down when I say there's blame to go on both sides. Here,
yeah, I told the truth,
and that you're not able.
Like that.
It's just one of those areas where you're not objective, and that's okay. But it's
very objective. They lose a lot of games. They've mistreated the community. But Luke has the picture of how many people go to the games now, and now they're shutting the sport down. It's absurd. Here's the part that I love. The part that I love is it's not my life anymore.
Yes,
this was my life in 1994. It consumed me. It almost destroyed the embryo of my business in the beginning because there was no football here and I was trying to be a sports thing. Now, if I had to pin my fortunes and the fortunes of my company, my employees, anyone associated with my business or the city with baseball or the Orioles, if anybody is pinned to that, God bless them. For anybody that has a job down there selling tickets, selling suites, being involved in it, having their life be baseball, I am so glad because my life was baseball. I loved it that much. You know that. I loved it that much.
Is that the objective reporter would look at this? I don't disagree with anything about the stupidity of the strike, but an objective reporter would look and say that since Mike Elias has arrived, the franchise is on the right path. They're ranked number 1 or number 2 farm system in every publication that there is. They have an influx of young talent. and they will be good again. And when they are good again in the very near future, when Grayson Rodriguez is pitching in the playoffs, the stadium will be packed again. It will be packed again.
Will be packed again. Oh, man.
It will be good.
You are so onto the Kool-Aid. It's going to be packed.
It will be packed again.
Everyone's going to go out there and spend $30 to sit in the upper deck on a Tuesday night. That's
when they're winning, when they're back in the playoffs and they're playing exciting competitive
baseball. You seem to
baseball.
forget how long this baseball thing's been going on. How many people like me that are 50 years old that aren't just I'm offended. I'm offended by Peter Angelos. I'm offended by Major League Baseball.
I said you're not.
I'm offended by all of it.
Comes to Mr. Angelos,
but
you're not objective.
It's different for me. I'm offended. Other people are just gone.
I don't know what you're offended by. I don't know what you're offended.
They're on strike again. I mean, locked out. Whatever the hell. I keep calling it a strike. Luke smacks me every time I do that. They're not putting their game on the field now, is what they're doing.
I think that's
a disgrace.
A very bad decision on the part of Major League ownership. I've been very crystal clear on that.
What will the damage be? The damage won't be that Don and his family won't go. You're in for life. I thought I was in for life until I was mistreated long enough to say, and then watching everybody else get mistreated, including the community that I've stood for here. I've stood up for the truth.
They haven't mistreated me over the past several years when they're trying to rebuild this thing the right way and create a franchise that's good not just for 1 or 2 years, but it's good for 10 or 12 years. That will be good for the community. That will be good for the small business owner. That will be good for the popcorn vendor. And that's what we need to see. That's why, am I frustrated that we're not playing baseball come early April? Yeah, you're sure I'm frustrated because I think it's fun. I like watching baseball.
There's nothing they're going to do to chase you away, is what I'm saying. They lost the franchise in Montreal the last time this happened, and I know Luke wrote about what the long arm of however long they're out is. They're never going to lose you. Back in 1994.
Well, when you say they're never going to lose me, I don't know what that means. I mean,
you're always going to go and buy. Whenever they come back, you'll be there with your credit card.
Sure. Why wouldn't I? Fair
enough. In 1994,
Nestor,
whole idea was.
Why wouldn't I? I like the game
because you find other things to do.
Well, I'm gonna teach Rob Manfred a lesson, and I'm not gonna buy a ticket. That's ridiculous. It's childish. I'm gonna show Rob Manfred, and I'm not going to buy a ticket.
The difference is you're in for you. You don't even look at this. You have no rational. When we talk baseball, you're in for life. There's nothing they could do to make you go away. Nothing they could do to make you go away. They've lived their life they've lived all of your lifetime, the last 50 years since they started with free agency. They've lived under the premise that all of you will come back. And the arrogance, they've never all come back.
Nestor, you've been wrong. You've been wrong every time on one of those. You told me that people would never go back to the Ravens games. What was packed when Lamar was winning?
The games have not been packed. I mean, I don't know what to say to you. I can pull up a picture right now of the Rams game that I've been saving for when I write about it, and I'll pull this up. This is not packed on. I mean, like
I said
this is not packed. This is the first quarter of a 62-degree day where the Ravens were in playoff contention against the Rams, and this is Fan Dan, real Fan Dan, and this is literally what the stadium looked like in the middle of the game.
Nestor,
the Ravens have had trouble selling tickets. That's a fact. That's a fact.
In 2019 and 2020, the stadium was pretty much packed every game. The NFL stadiums around the league struggle with getting people to come to games. I understand that because of the home experience. But the point being that you act like, oh, you're dumb. You'd be dumb for going back to an Orioles game. What you miss is I've told it to you.
What you miss is the reason they can get away with this shit is because people like you are going to come back no matter what. They'll stay out a year. They'll stay out a month. You're coming back. You can't live without it. I've moved my life into a different place.
Well, that's a dumb thing. What do you mean I
You
can't
love
live
it.
with that?
It's
Of course I can
one of the
live
most
without it.
important things in your life. It was
No,
one of the
it's
most
not.
important things in my life for
No,
30 years.
no, it's not. It's entertainment. I went to Broadway this week. I love Broadway. It's not one of the most important. You know what's important in my
Broadway
life?
doesn't go 57 and 105.
You know,
If they
you
did,
know
you
what's
wouldn't
important
go.
in my life? My family's important in my
Of
life.
course.
These other things are entertaining. Therefore, when the Orioles come back and Adley Rushman and Ryan Miner and Grayson Rodriguez are on the All-Star team, that's fun to watch. It would be dumb on my part, and for most people sitting out there say, I'm gonna show Mr. Angelos. I'm not going back. What? I'm not going back. What? That would be stupid.
Most
Why
people
wouldn't
weren't
I go
going to
back?
begin with, is my point. You're one of the guys that's been
No,
going.
it's
so you're going to
entertaining.
go.
You keep saying it.
How are they going to recruit new people when they can't even put their product on the field?
Well,
That's the issue. They've tourniqueted their product right now at a time when, as Luke wrote at Baltimore Positive, it's really foolish. And talking about it with you, like, you're going to go no matter what. I want to talk about the people that don't go anymore, that this is making them move even further away.
I think
this sort of behavior makes me not want to give them more money.
Yeah, but again, I have to discount you on this because you're not objective about the franchise and baseball.
I only went to 30 ballparks in 30 days 6 years ago. I don't like baseball or anything.
Not object. You've said to me you don't. Don't throw that back at me as if I'm exaggerating. You've said it to me. My point is,
what have I said?
You said that you are not a fan of baseball anymore. You said it to me. I didn't say it, Nestor. I'm quoting you back.
It made me not a fan. Yeah.
Okay. So therefore,
9 out of every other 10 friends that I had who collected baseball cards, who played Stratomatic, who were rotisserie players, who bought the Baseball Weekly, and who had a 13-game plan, and who planned their summers around a trip to Chicago or Kansas City or Boston or New York, or got all of that was my whole world. When I wrote the book on Angelos back in 2006, when I wrote Free the Birds, everyone in my life, that literally, even my wife, I could trace back to baseball and baseball things. I'm telling you, the last 15 years of my life, I don't have baseball memories. I don't have baseball people around me. And most other people in my world have done something else with their time that they do. They don't go to, when you're in that stadium and it's empty, all those people don't go anymore. And they used to go. They need to get them back because there are no new people. There are no young people.
They don't go because we're going to wrap it up. They don't go because the team has been terrible. In other cities where teams are good, fans show up. Baltimore is not unique. Fans will come back if the Orioles are good again. If they don't play until July the 4th, I think it's stupid on their part. But if they play July the 4th,
you'll go July 5th.
Yeah. I'll go July the 5th to see what.
And that is what allows them to do this. That is what allows them to do it.
My point. We keep going over to why wouldn't I? What point would I be making by not going? What point would I be making by not going? That's like saying, well, I won't go to a movie or I won't go.
Okay. I mean, there's no price to be paid for them other than the price that's going to be paid, which is they're not selling tickets and making money. Don, yes. I love you, man. And I hope there's baseball for you. I mean, I hope when they do this stuff, it doesn't anger me anymore. I was very emotional about it 30 years ago. I was very emotional about it 15 years ago when I had my career, what I do for a living, taken, my ability to practice taken away by a creep and a lunatic and all that. That has nothing to do with whether I can put the game on and love it. You know, I don't love the way the Black Crowes got along, but when they play songs, I still listen to it, despite the fact that they don't like each other and they fight. Same thing with Journey and these bands. They fight, and I still put Separate Ways on and like the song. With baseball, there's a day-to-day amount of time. Forget the money. The money's irrelevant because I never spent a lot of money on baseball. I mean, tickets weren't that expensive to spend. It's a time commitment. It's do I want to be in this soap opera 4 to 6 hours a day, 180 days of the year, and then take the off season and have what we have with the Ravens right now, the off season soap opera, which is free agency, combine, who are we signing, who's the quarterback, who are we drafting, how do they look, how's practice going. Baseball has none of that going on right now because they've shut their industry down.
And I'll leave it with this. I think you've alluded to something that is very important in terms of the time, and I think I've been crystal clear on this. I think baseball has some major issues moving forward. I don't like some of the trends in the game at all. So I think I'm very clear-eyed about that. I hate the fact that a starting pitcher now is expected to go 4-5 innings, that there are 6 or 7 relievers, that games take 3 hours and 20 minutes, that there's no little ball. I hate the shift. There are a number of things about the game.
None of that's going to chase you away, though. So
that I would,
and therefore they're going to, like, all of these bad things. We're all agreeing they're bad, right? Maybe Rob Manfred doesn't agree they're bad, but most of us who like baseball, I'm not sure he likes baseball. I'm not sure the guys that own. Peter Andrews never liked baseball. If he liked baseball, Larry King liked baseball. He sat there and watched it. So if you like baseball, you invest and spend your time watching baseball if you like baseball. I don't see the people that own it as liking it in that way, that if I were in a room talking about baseball in the way that you and I talk about baseball and the game of baseball, I don't mean the pageantry and the history and all that.
I understand.
I just mean liking it on a Tuesday night,
I
putting it on,
understand.
caring about the players, caring about the strategy, finding yourself in the moment of following it. It's just been so long for me. And when I do try to watch it now, not only the broadcast bad and Garceau and this and that and broadcasting from other places, but the home runs, the strikeouts,
see, there again,
the 4-hour
games, you just threw.
Like the presentation of it. The presentation of it isn't any good.
You just did it again. First of all the bad things, there's some good things. The mass and broadcast are not bad at all. I mean, you have a problem. They're actually very good. I've watched broadcasts from around the country, and Masson does a really nice job. Scott Garceau is one of the finest people and the most respected broadcasters.
Now we're going on the PR side. And
Why is that PR, Nestor?
It's not any good.
Scott Garceau is one of the nicest guys.
He's a beautiful man. He doesn't like baseball anymore. He's not interested in it.
That's not true. I know Scott.
He doesn't make me interested in it.
He does like baseball. And the best news out of it, and you'll remember if you go back a year ago.
Ben McDonald's really good, by the way.
If you go back and look at our recons from a year ago, I told you how bullish I was on Kevin Brown, and they've promoted him. I think Kevin Brown is one of the best young play-by-play announcers in all of baseball.
I didn't listen enough to him, so I have no opinion.
That's what I'm saying. You can't talk. So Kevin Brown is good. So to bash Masson, again, it just shows you don't pay enough attention to have an opinion on Masson. But the Masson broadcasts are actually pretty good. Rob Long does a nice job pre and post game. So they're and Brett Hollander's good. They have a pretty good team on Masson.
If I bash Rob Long, I created Rob Long. So if I understand, it's not very good. I don't think he's very good at sitting in a stadium and being a pregame host. He's horrific, actually, I think. But that doesn't make me watch or not watch. They lose 100 games. They shift. The pitching stinks. The energy stinks. The broadcast stinks. And then at the heart of it, they've destroyed their game. They've screwed their game up with home runs and strikeouts and shifts. The broadcast,
we'll let it go at that. The broadcast doesn't stink. The product has stunk. The product is not going to stink much more. But the broadcast itself is actually pretty high quality. And actually, anytime you have Jim Palmer and Ben McDonald and Kevin Brown, you've got a pretty good broadcast team. And if you don't think so, watch broadcast teams around the country. Ours is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, I put the other Masson channel on and get the Nationals games too, and they were never any good either. So, I'll hear that. But Ben McDonald is the best thing that's happened about their broadcast in the last couple of years.
I understand. You're not able to be objective about Masson and the Angelos family.
No, when I put it on, I've said Ben McDonald does a nice job. That's being very objective.
I understand. I understand. All right.
Don
That's what
Mohler's
we
here.
got.
He's here to offend me about baseball, and I'm here to offend him about baseball, and that's why you love the show. He's former Baltimore County executive. He will be at the ballpark whenever they decide to come back. We will be standing by and watching whatever's going on in the Ukraine. We're hopefully going to have some crab cakes here very shortly. We're going to be at the at Mama's on the Half Shell this week. Next week, we're at El Guapo, 1-4. Right now, I keep saying 2-5. You keep
One
telling
to
1-4.
four.
1-4 next Thursday. We're at El Guapo, and then we are at Costas on Friday the 18th. That'll be in the middle of March Madness. That is 2-5, and we will have some basketball going on there. And then we're doing a morning at Fadley's. We try to get in the morning because they have spatial issues at lunchtime. We don't want to take up the whole restaurant, but come on down to Lexington Market. New Lexington Market coming online, Don Mohler. We're going to get down there and kick some tires and check that out as well. That's the 23rd of the month, all presented by the Maryland Lottery. Don and I love each other in real life. It's just when we talk baseball. I am Nestor. He is Don. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive.